I almost spat out my coffee when I heard someone say that XRP could hit $1,000. But get this, they claimed that it would create more millionaires than Bitcoin hitting $1 million. Pretty crazy, right? So I'm scrolling through crypto Twitter in the middle of the night, because what else do you do when you can't sleep? And I see this rather bold claim from an XRP enthusiast. She basically said that if Bitcoin can realistically hit $1 million, then XRP can reach $1,000. And then she took it a step further, saying that XRP at $1,000 would actually produce more millionaires than Bitcoin at $1 million. I had to kind of read that twice. My first reaction was, all right, the XRP army is at it again with the hopium. I mean, come on, XRP to $1,000. It sounded like something that you would only ever see in a clickbait ad. But at the same time, I couldn't just scroll past. I was like a kind of mosquito bite in my brain, if you will, right? I had to kind of scratch it. What if there was actually some logic to this? Was I about to become the next XRP moon boy? Or was there actually a real story here? Okay, so let me walk you through my little late night journey down this particular rabbit hole. Because once I started tugging on the thread, things got interesting. Fast. So first, it's the claim itself. More millionaires from XRP at $1,000 than Bitcoin at $1 million. Now I thought, all right, let's do some quick and dirty math here. And you know what? The numbers kind of slapped me in the face. Right now, give or take, XRP is trading around that kind of $3 level, right? Meanwhile, Bitcoin is chilling way up there at around the $115,000 per coin. So imagine you having about $3,000 to invest, $3,000. You know, if you kind of threw that into XRP today at roughly $3 each, you'd snag 1,000 XRP tokens. Now, hold on to your hat. If each of those, tokens someday hit $1,000, we're in a fancy land for a second, so just bear with me here. Your kind of 1,000 XRP would be worth $1 million, right? $1 million. You can cue the jaw dropping if you want. Now, let's say you take the same $3,000 and put it into Bitcoin at 115K. That gives you something like, 0.026 of a BTC. Right now, if Bitcoin miraculously kind of hits that $1 million per coin, that 0.026 BTC turns into 26 grand. 26 grand. Now, I'm not sneezing at 26 grand. That's a solid chunk of money, but it's also not exactly quit your job and buy a yacht kind of money either, right? Meanwhile, the XRP scenario with the same investment is literally millionaire territory. So when I saw that, I had to kind of pick up my jaw off of the floor. It's kind of the kind of math that kind of makes you sit up, in bed and go, okay, wait a second. Could this actually be real? Right? No wonder the original poster was flexing that particular scenario, right? It's kind of I guess it is crypto catnip, right? I mean, show that kind of tantalizing upside to any crypto enthusiast and just watch their eyes light up like a Christmas morning. Now, at this point, I was half laughing and half daydreaming, right? $1 million for a few thousand invested in XRP. The idea was so ridiculous and yet so alluring. I mean, who wouldn't want that kind of return, right? It kind of felt like one of those late night infomercials. Turn $3,000 into $1 million. Cool now. Obviously, it's a joke, but part of me was rolling my eyes. But another part of me was already kind of planning the kind of tropical island that I would buy to put a house on. So before I completely lose the plot and start imagining quitting my day job, I decided I'd better actually put this into perspective, right? Story time within a story, if you will. Now, I texted a buddy of mine who is a huge XRP fan, right? Now, this guy eats, sleeps, breathes XRP. I go, bro, have you seen this tweet? XRP to $1,000 means our bags would buy yachts. Now, he hits me back with instantly, dude, I've been saying this for years. XRP is the chosen one now. He's biased, of course. Obviously he is. But, he's been predicting, Lambo time for XRP ever since I met the guy. Now, we joke, that his retirement plan is basically XRP hits $1,000 and I'm out. Real talk, of course. Now, his excitement was contagious though, right? Here I am at 2 a.m. and my buddy is hyping up XRP and I'm just looking at my exchange app like, maybe I should just buy a little bit more just in case. I mean, I use Kraken Pro for most of my trading and I had it open on my phone. So here's, by the way, kind of a big shout out to Kraken Pro. The affiliate link in the description, of course, is an affiliate link. If you want to support the channel, of course, you can go ahead and check it out. Anyway, I was dangerously easy to kind of justify maybe a little couple extra XRP at this particular point. I'm literally kind of hovering over the buy button, if you will, thinking about that $1 million payday down the road. Now, my FOMO, it was kicking in hard. You know, that little kind of devil on your shoulder that whispers in your ear. Mine was saying, come on, there's only a few more XRP. What if this is your ticket? But then, of course, the other thought hits me hard. Okay, hold on. Let's go off the deep end here. Let's not go off the deep end, I should say. This is the same space where in 2017, everyone thought that Bitcoin 20K was insane. And then it hit $20,000 and then crashed again, right? Then, of course, people said Bitcoin at 100K is next. And even in 2025 now, we're at around 115K, which is amazing, but it took a while and a lot of ups and downs. And let's not forget that all the XRP to $589 by the end of year predictions that turned into memes, right? If you were around in 2018, oh boy, the $589 prophecy was absolutely everywhere. Here's a spoiler alert though, XRP never hit $589, not even close. And so I figured it was probably time for a bit of a reality check and some actual research, not just some Twitter dreams. So what are the experts actually saying, if anything, about all of these crazy numbers? And so I dug into Bitcoin's long-term projections first, because that's more familiar territory, right? And guess what? A bunch of really smart, or at least really confident people have gone on the record with absolutely sky-high targets for BTC. I'm talking stratospheric, right? For instance, you got Cathie Wood, lover or hater. This is the over at ARK Invest, you know, the star stock picker, if you will, who loves disruptive tech. Well, she has been kind of saying that Bitcoin could hit $1 million by 2030. In fact, she bumped her prediction up to $1.5 million recently, pointing to how institutions are adopting Bitcoin and how it's likely to be digital gold on steroids in her view. And then there's Tom Lee. This is the Wall Street analyst who's perpetually bullish. Now, he thinks $1 million per BTC could happen within a few years, not decades. Now, Tom's like, yep, 150K is around the corner, 500K soon after that, and $1 million before you know it. Now, I remember reading that and thinking, man, I want whatever this guy's having, right? Because it's contagious. And then you've got Michael Saylor. And oh man, you know Saylor, right? The micro strategy guy who's gone all in on Bitcoin. Now he has one of the boldest takes. He throws out a number like $13 million per Bitcoin as a possibility in the very long term, say by 2045. That was $13 million. At that price, if you just owned one Bitcoin, you're basically set for life 10 times over. Now, Saylor's logic was something about all the money in the world eventually flowing into capped assets like Bitcoin, especially as those halving events keep making it more scarce. Now, the dudes actually, that's not technically true either. We have to kind of just go back on that for a second, because the halving event in itself is just halving the amount that can be minted. It doesn't actually make the asset more scarce because it's always being issued. It just makes new issuance harder and rarer. Okay, so it's not that the halving event actually makes it more scarce. It doesn't, it just makes it harder to mine more Bitcoin. Anyway, this dude's essentially married to his Bitcoin thesis anyway, right? He's mortgaged his entire company on it, figuratively speaking, of course. We also have Robert Kiyosaki, yeah, the rich dad, poor dad author guy, right? Now, he is not exactly shy about big predictions either. He has talked about Bitcoin reaching $1 million by 2035. Now, his reasoning is more about the kind of macroeconomics, right? He sees governments printing money like it's going out of style. Debt gets piling up, and he thinks people will flock to Bitcoin to protect their wealth. His hedge, it's kind of his hedge against what he calls the dying dollar, and it's hard to argue against. Even one of my personal favorites, Charles Hoskinson, the founder of Cardano and the Ethereum co-founder back in the day, gave his 2 cents too. He thinks Bitcoin could cross the $1 million mark before 2030 as well. Why? You might be thinking, well, it's because even the most traditional finance entities, imagine the BlackRocks of the world, are now in Bitcoin ETFs, and such, right? Basically, the big dogs are coming to play, and their demand could be huge. So yeah, there's a lot of credible folks out there, plus maybe a few who might be a tad over optimistic, believe that maybe a 7-figure Bitcoin isn't a matter of if, but just when. And if you accept that premise, it opens the door to even consider an XRP at $1,000, at least, philosophically. It's kind of like if the apex predator of crypto can moon that hard, maybe the friendly neighborhood XRP can have its day in the sun too. Right? All right. So what about XRP itself then? Are there any experts or notable analysts even entertaining that $1,000 notion? Well, it turns out that there are a few optimistic takes, though they're definitely in the minority, right? I found one piece from April 2025. The COO of crypto firm CryptoGuard speculated that XRP could reach between $100 and $1,000 in the next decade. Now, that would be around the kind of 2035 levels, right? Now, $100 is a far cry from $1,000, but hey, $1,000 or $1K was the high end of this range anyway, right? So at least somebody put it out there and put some numbers on paper. Then some analysts over at Changelly did a super long-term price forecast. They said that XRP might climb to around $1,020 by the year of 2040. So by that time, you'll have gone through like 3 more Bitcoin halving cycles, maybe have self-driving flying cars, and who knows, right? But those Changelly guys at least think that 1000 XRP is within the realm of distant possibilities. And just recently, in July of 2025, I wrote about the founders of an app called Easy-A discussing XRP potentially reaching $1,000 too. Now, they pointed to the growth of the XRP ledger's DeFi ecosystem as a potential catalyst. Basically, if a ton of decentralized finance activity starts happening on the XRP ledger, demand for XRP could skyrocket. Now, I guess that they imagine a future where XRP isn't just used by banks for cross-border payments, but actually for locking value in smart contracts, powering lending, trading, NFTs, whatever. And so yeah, there are a few voices out there giving XRP a shot at the moon, even if it's a long shot. But let's also be real. The average crypto investor or analyst, if you ask them anyway, and say, hey, is XRP going to $1,000? They're probably going to give you a bit of a funny look. Now, by now, you're probably feeling the tug of war inside me, right? The dreamer is like, it could happen. Anything is possible in crypto. And the skeptic in me is like, bruh, do you hear yourself? $60 trillion market cap, get real. And that skeptical voice, it has a small point, not much, but it has a small point. So let's crunch that part too, because this is where the rubber kind of meets the road. So a Bitcoin at $1 million from around 115K now is roughly about 768% increase. It's kind of like Bitcoin doing about an 8x. Now in crypto terms, that's actually not too insane, considering Bitcoin's done crazier things in the earlier days, though on much smaller denominations. And given 5 or 10 years, sure, why not? XRP, on the other hand, going from $3 to $1,000 is about 33,000% increase. That's a 333x. Or 336x approximately, if my calculated brain is actually working, which it probably isn't. A 336x is, well, let's just say you don't see that kind of thing happen all that often with an asset that's already in the top 10 by market capitalization. So if XRP was a tiny micro cap coin, I'd say, hey, In crypto, those things can 300x. Let's say, usually from like 0.0001 of a cent, or something like that. But XRP is already a bit of a giant with tens of billions in market cap. Now, in terms of market cap, if Bitcoin hit $1 million with its cap of 21 million coins, actually 19 million circulating right now, you'd be looking at roughly $20 trillion market cap, right? That's pretty enormous. About as much as the market cap of gold, give or take a couple of trillion, right? And people have been making the gold comparisons forever. So, okay. If XRP hit $1,000, let's say with the 59.3 billion tokens that are circulating, the market cap would be around $59 trillion. So let that sink in, 59 trillion. Now that is more than double the value of gold on Earth. Heck, it's about 2 Amazons and 2 Apples and Microsoft thrown in for good measure. It's a ridiculous sum of money. But as we've spoken about recently, we know that market cap is actually rather misleading. It doesn't actually represent the actual amount of liquidity, right? We went through this in a previous video, so if you haven't checked it out, you should probably go and do so. Now, market cap is just price multiplied by circulating supply. Okay, so what does that really tell you? It tells you that if the price of, let's say, XRP goes to $1,000, you're going to end up with $59 trillion in market cap, right? $1,000 multiplied by the supply. But what it doesn't really tell you is why the price moved to $1,000, right? The price moves based on your supply and your demand. And if there's an imbalance in that, the price is going to move accordingly. And the other part of this equation, which isn't really spoken about very publicly, is that the price is the last traded price, which means that if the order books are thin and there's not a lot of selling and there's a lot of buying coming in, well, the price moves up higher to find sellers. And what happens here is that last traded price, it reprices all XRP in existence. So if you had, let's say, $10 billion of buying pressure coming into XRP, that could potentially create a $100 price tag for XRP, right? So that would actually create a $5.9 trillion market cap, right? Based on how thin those order books are. And basically the liquidity would still only be $10 billion. Okay, so $10 billion in could actually affect the market cap to the trillions of levels. It doesn't mean that you could liquidate an entire asset. So if you were to get, let's say, Bitcoin to $20 trillion, you couldn't snap your fingers and extract $20 billion. That's $20 trillion. It doesn't work that way. There isn't actually $20 trillion of liquidity in the market. And the same concept applies here for XRP. If there is an imbalance and a significant one that has significant amount of buying pressure and not enough selling pressure, we could see that price of XRP lift up really high. And we could also see the market cap reflect that, meaning that we have a $59 trillion market cap from, let's say, $100 billion of buying pressure. You couldn't liquidate $59 trillion instantly because that money never existed, right? Instead, there's only the $100 billion that actually drove it. So it's important to understand that these are the actual metrics behind market cap before you make the assumptions that market cap is going to be a barrier to price discovery. It's circular in the way that you think. So if you were to think that market cap is a barrier, and actually price is dictating the market cap, then how can the market cap stop the price if the price dictates the market cap, right? You end up with this circular calculation that would just break any kind of mental kind of math, right? So it's important to understand that you have to focus on the price, and the price controls the market cap, never the other way around. So although the skeptics like to point at the market cap as a huge barrier, it really isn't one at all. It's actually rather misleading, and I wish people would actually stop using market cap as a measure of value, because it really doesn't even do a very good job at that within the crypto space. But I will level with you guys, because it was in that moment that I kind of sat back in my chair and just whistled to myself, because you do still have to justify $59 trillion. XRP, of course, would have to be doing something truly world-changing to have that imbalance of the price, or for the price, the supply, the demand, right? So maybe every bank and fintech and payment processor in the world would potentially be using XRP daily, right? Now, maybe entire countries are running their finances on it, right? It basically is the scenario where XRP replaces a huge chunk of the global financial plumbing. Now, is this theoretically possible? Sure, yeah, it's theoretically possible, right? Some people might say it's sci-fi or in a parallel universe, maybe, right? But it certainly isn't going to be something that's going to happen overnight just because a bunch of retail speculation comes in and says that XRP is the secret plan or has a rumor about it, right? It would require true utility on an absolutely massive scale. And also, it's even if I were on that particular path of thinking, let's kind of be honest, the sell pressure on the way up would also be pretty immense. Like I said, right? My buddy might not even wait until $1,000. He might sell at $50 and call it a win, right? A lot of people would cash out at much lower milestones, making it much harder for the price to actually keep exploding upwards unless there is a monumental amount of new demand that just keeps overwhelming the sellers at every single step. And so, after all of this number crunching and soul searching, where do I land? Well, before I answer that, I want to slip in a very quick but crucial disclaimer because I know that all of this sounds super enticing and I don't want anyone to get the wrong idea. Now, this one might just shock you, but I'm not a financial advisor and nothing in this video is financial advice. Cryptocurrencies are highly volatile and you could lose all of the money that you invest. You should always do your own research and consult a qualified professional. After all, your investments are entirely your responsibility and you should know that nothing is ever guaranteed when it comes to investing. Neither I, this channel, nor YouTube are liable for any losses, and this video today is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Alright, so I'm kind of glad that we got that out of the way. I know it's heavy stuff, but it needed to be said. Basically, don't mortgage your house for XRP or any other cryptocurrency, okay? You cool with that? Now, let's get back to our regularly scheduled story. Now, after all of this, I'll tell you what I did and where my head is at, right? I didn't go out and sell my car to buy a truckload of XRP. That much should be pretty obvious. I'm crazy, but I'm just not that crazy. What I did, though, was actually grab a little bit more XRP. Just a little, just as a little bit of a treat. And why? Because this kind of story has inspired me a little bit. And hey, I'd hate myself if one day XRP did actually pop off and I hadn't at least kept a moon bag. So yeah, I increased my stack ever so slightly. On Kraken Pro, of course, the affiliate link is in the description if you want to help out the channel while you trade. But I did it with full awareness that this could also amount to absolutely nothing. It's kind of play money for wild gambles and nothing more. Now, the bulk of my crypto portfolio is still in the stuff that I have strong conviction in, right? We've got Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano's ADA, Sui, the classics if you will, but I'm not about to kind of reshuffle all my life savings over a single tweet. But I got to admit, the whole exercise made me a little bit more open-minded. Like sure, $1,000 XRP still sounds way, way out there. But if you asked someone back in 2013 whether Bitcoin could hit $115,000, they probably would have laughed at you too. So in crypto, sometimes the line between crazy and prophecy is only visible in hindsight. Now, this journey also gave me greater appreciation for the XRP community. Right, those people have some pretty serious kind of faith, right? Say what you will about being overly optimistic or even potentially delusional, but believing in something against all odds is kind of powerful. Now, that's a big part of crypto culture. All these kind of almost frantical kind of beliefs, tribes, if you will, they kind of around many different coins. Bitcoin has the laser-eyed maxis. Ethereum has their ultrasound money crowd. Dogecoin has, well, memes and Shiba Inu logos, right? The XRP has diehards who held through multi-year lawsuits and never stopped believing. And you've got to respect that dedication, even if you don't share the same level of conviction. Now, speaking of community, if you ever want to join ours, well, we have a pretty chill and free educational Discord server. The link, of course, is in the description. It's kind of where we kind of place, is a place I should say, where we toss around ideas like this. We do the research together and occasionally even share a meme when someone's price prediction goes wildly off course. It's a good time and you're welcome to hop in and say hi. Anyway, considering both the dream and the reality, here is my take. XRP hitting $1,000 is possible in the way that, sure, almost anything is possible. But is it likely? Well, let's just say that I won't be staking my life savings on that particular bet. Now, Bitcoin hitting $1 million feels a lot more realistic comparatively, though even if a kind of roller coaster kind of came around, I would probably still be taking profits much earlier. Now, could XRP surprise us all one day? Maybe, right? Crypto world is full of surprises after all. I mean, who foresaw that the internet meme coin like Dogecoin becoming a top 10 asset at one point, right? Crazy things do indeed happen. So I won't say never, right? But I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you should plan your entire future around 1K per XRP. That would be, as the Brits say, an absolute load of bollocks. Now, what I can say is at this point though, experiment was actually pretty fun. It got me kind of doing the math at 2 a.m. It sparked excited conversations with friends, and it made me kind of step back a little bit here and remember why I'm in this space to begin with, right? We chase the big dreams here, but we also learn to check ourselves too. So in a way, chasing $1,000 XRP idea reminded me why I fell in love with crypto in the first place. It's this blend of financial savvy kind of futurism and a sprinkle of crazy for good measure, right? Sometimes you strike gold, sometimes you strike out, but you learn and adjust either way. And whether you are team Bitcoin, team XRP, or just team make money and be happy, ultimately, we're all trying to navigate this crazy crypto journey together. So thanks for hanging out with me on this little adventure. I hope that I at least gave you a laugh and some insights and maybe even a reality check or two. Now, if you've enjoyed going on this ride with me, hit that subscribe button, join me for the next crypto adventure, and I'll see you in the next one.